What's up, TikTok? You guys cool if I play some sports?
Is there any possibility? I don't know of some clever way.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me? I think it's coming through. I think that maybe can you see me? You hear my voice, but you don't see me. I think that's let's see here, hold on. I can get the waveforms to collapse, I'm sure of it. I think did that work? Can anybody hear me or see me? Okay, it looks like maybe you can, so I'm gonna assume that the hijacking worked. My name is Dr. Casper Darling. I'm the head of research at the Federal Bureau of Control. And, well, I'm pretty sure that the reality you're in is not the same one that I'm in, but these things happen. There's not very much I can do about it, but the reality I'm in now is a lot like the reality that I left. In fact, there's very little different about it. It's not like that movie yesterday where cigarettes don't exist, or Oasis doesn't exist. Stupid stuff like that. Waveforms are collapsing. Anyway, I'm trapped, making the best of it. What I wanted to do was, oh dear, as I continue my role over here at the Federal Bureau of Control. What I'm doing is examining altered items. And there's a few that we've discovered here that oh no. There's a few we've discovered in this reality here that you all don't seem to have. So I wanted to make sure that you all knew about them because they're pretty dangerous. You know what? I can explain the items to you, or I can show them to you. I think it's better if I show them to you. But it's important that you all know that this is a transmission. This is not something that has been pre-planned. This is not something that is this is going on right now. Lukimana, this is happening right now. And no. Miss, that's not it at all. Perhaps Maddie needs to go get some food. Anyway, so if I just show you a couple of these items, I think you'll have a much better idea of what I'm talking about. And it's much more effective to just show them to you than talk to you about them. So, this first one is nuts. They're all kind of nuts. I'll be honest with you, but this first one is maybe especially nuts. Let me pick up and drop my pen. This is, where is it? Over here. It's right here. It's a good one. It's a Cassandra's Camera Unobscura, which I'm sure you've heard of a Camera Obscura before, but this is a Camera Unobscura. Give you some idea of what it does or what it looks like. There it is right there. It's containment procedure is as follows. Well, this one doesn't have much of a containment procedure. It requires active use for it to propagate at all. So, if you leave it alone, it'll leave you alone. I think that's probably best for everyone involved. But this camera takes pictures that tell you how many days you have left until you die, which is so very Cassandra. Let's take a few right now. Couple of different angles here. Don't worry, I'm not gonna develop the film. It's not really a selfie kind of camera like people. Generally, if you know when you're going to die, it's not static. Our lives are not predetermined, so you can do stuff to try and prevent yourself from dying, and then you get caught in this loop where your entire life is spent trying to prevent yourself from dying. And nobody wants that. Well, I'm sorry, Q, for ruining your super chat plans, but I'm also not sorry. Wish all super fan chats were ruined. So, if you wanted, you could use this to take a picture of yourself. You get a mirror, some decent lighting or something. Roll the dice. If that's your bag, maybe you'll get a good number, but maybe you won't. But anyway, this was found in a bed and breakfast near the Appalachian Trail in West Virginia by a couple who within a few days had committed redacted, and it's unclear if this altered object was the cause of the tragedy, but it sure would be a heck of a coincidence if it had nothing to do with it, wouldn't it? Hi, KJ Bourbon. How are you doing? Oh, Luke Yamano likes the sound of this camera, but you don't like what it does. I don't think you would. I don't know what you mean by breaking character. That's a strange thing to say. Not breaking character. No breaking character. If I were to break character, that would just be part of the character. How meta can we get here? Anyway, let's move on. Oh, I don't have this one. I don't have this object with me, but it's Schrodinger's stethoscope. It's an AI-94, it's KE type. Containment procedure is this object, it self-replicates. It's arrested by keeping it in a lightless box, which is easy enough, but the problem is we don't know how many times it's already reproduced. So, yeah, sure, we're keeping ours in a lightless box, but there could be hundreds or thousands out there. But anyway, it's a stethoscope, And the description is it makes any heart-related issues disappear whenever the heart is listened to or measured, only to have the issue recur immediately after measurement is stopped. That's Schrodinger's, I suppose. Collapsing waveforms again. I don't like the waveform on an EKG readout. It's always nice to be reminded of the horror that our own bodies can inflict on us. We spend an awful lot of time worried about outside threats when the real enemy is you, really. You. I'm going to say it's Isra. Isra is the real enemy in colorful dreams. And I resent the Jordan Peterson twin comparison. Anyway, I don't have this stethoscope with me, and if I did, it really wouldn't be a good idea to take it out of its box, even though, it's pretty dark in here. It's not completely lightless, so... Oh, I threw 2 down. Only meant to throw 1 down. This is going great. Oh yeah, this one's good. Okay, let me grab this. Y'all are like this one, I know it. It's in this box here. Which opens kind of funny. How do you open this box? To make everything so difficult. Check it out. This is it's a performance anxiety service weapon, AI-128KE. The containment procedure, the containment procedure for this altered item would require redacted legislation unlikely to occur in the United States. However, its effects can be mitigated by AI-89PE, which I know what that is, but you don't just yet. So the effect is this is a service weapon that simply just, it won't function in stressful circumstances. It might still be good for target practice, maybe. I guess the ironic thing about this is that psychopaths are capable of using this weapon without any restraint at all. They don't have any compunction. They don't get stressed out when they kill. A more conventional psyche would get stressed out and the weapon wouldn't work, but all you have to do is be a psychopath and this weapon's for you. The background is redacted, except to say that redacted for nearly 10 years before the development of AI-89PE, which I mentioned there a minute ago. Let's see what that is right here. Let's go through a couple more of these. Where's that? That's yeah, it's right here. Let's take a good look at this. They're little pills. They're blue. And they are AI-89PE, the unreasonable expectation of foresight pill. And essentially, well, the containment procedure is, it says containment is unnecessary. However, if taken by someone with a psychotic disposition, it is essential that redacted. I cannot stand it when the most important point is redacted. In movies, protagonist calls someone on the phone and says, everything will be fine as long as you remember to... You know, that trope can go straight to hell, as far as I'm concerned. However, this is not a movie, this is real life, imitating art, or low art, I suppose. But anyway, the pill allows the consumer to use their performance anxiety service weapon without issue, but you got to take it 12 hours in advance. Who knows when they're going to need a service weapon 12 hours in advance, unless you're planning a heist or something like that in, I don't know. Or if you're clairvoyant, that would work too. But I think the truth is, right, if you think you're clairvoyant, it's much more likely that you're just deranged. In which case you really wouldn't need these pills anyway, because, as mentioned before, those with a psychotic disposition can use the performance anxiety service weapon without issue. Q, I'm sorry this is killing you. I don't mean to be killing you. Why, Butterfly Composer, why does this sound like Jordan Peterson? I have to keep it down. It is my bureau. I'm the head of research. But it's late here. I can't tell you what time zone we're in. You think you know what time zone the oldest house is in. You think it's, Eastern time. But it's not. So I gotta keep it kind of low. Anyway, if you think you're clairvoyant, you're probably psychotic, so you should probably just, do the math, eat that worm, admit your biases, and just realize, that it's impossible for you to know how much you don't know. And there's a weird rub about the pursuit of knowledge. Check this out. If there's an infinite or near infinite amount of knowledge in the universe, or relative to what our brains can do, it might as well be infinite. That's to make no difference, so just call it infinite. If that's true, and we assume that is true, right? Then the problem you run into is the more that you learn, the more you know. And the more that you know, ipso facto, the more that you think you know. But the problem is the difference between what you know and what someone who doesn't know anything knows. Statistically insignificant. And people who know they don't know stuff are therefore closer to knowing the truth about themselves than people who know stuff and think that they know stuff. Again, relative to the amount of knowledge attainable in the known universe. It kind of makes me question my life's pursuit. It's too far gone now, though. Anyway, this medication was manufactured with the mandated assistance of several redacted nearly 10 years after the discovery of AI-128-KE, which, as we already know, is the performance anxiety service weapon. Right. Here's another one, real quick. It's a Coca-Cola, but it tastes like a Pepsi. So it looks like a Coca-Cola, feels like a Coca-Cola. It smells like Coca-Cola. Oh my gosh. Pardon me. Tastes like a stupid Pepsi. Every machine in the bureau Same problem. If I wanted a Pepsi, I'd drink a damn Pepsi. All right. Do we have any more? We have a few more. I'm not going to go through them all. Maybe I'll go through one more and then I'll turn control back over to the original owner of this wave. Like the research that I did indicated that the person who had control of this particular, let's say, bandwidth pipeline to the people has millions and millions of followers. So I should be reaching the majority of, at least the majority of the United States, if not the world. Anyway, the next one I don't have either. Do I want to end on one that I don't have? Or do I want to... I mean, I got this one. You don't know this one, though. This is Pazuzu. Right? It's Pazuzu. I don't need to tell you about Pazuzu, do I? I mean, you've seen The Exorcist. Not really much point doing that. We got a couple others here. We got... This is a full set of human teeth. They're dental implants. The problem is they're both sentient and carnivorous, and they especially like tongue. So, as much as you might want to have a nice, perfect set of chompers, you're going to want to weigh the fact that these chompers are going to want to chomp down on your own tongue. Be a problem. I heard a very strange beep a moment ago. I'm not sure where it came from. I should definitely investigate, right? Let me investigate. Oh gosh, I hope it's not what I think it is. Please don't be the hiss. Please don't be the hiss. Hello? Who's that? Where's that? What was that beep? Hello? Hello? What is up, people? It's kind of loud, isn't it? Let me turn that down a bit. I had it, obviously I had it set up for ASMR. Or something like ASMR. And there was, I guess, y'all were kind of right. That was a test run. But it was live. Live, L-I-V-E, live. This lighting sucks. Give me a moment here to fix this. Can I just brighten you up a bit? Maybe we're just going to have to live with it tonight because I feel like going through too much, and I can't take down all the stuff in the back there. I need to leave it up until I'm done. Thus why you were treated / subjected to a very nerve-wracked version of that thing. Where is my... Here, I can just do it here. How are y'all doing tonight? I'm going to say hi to people in a moment. This is always... This is a risk, okay? These cameras aren't great on the autofocus. So let's see if this works. I think it kind of worked. Sort of worked. I'm 80% sure that I'm in decent focus. Okay. Does Coke taste like Coke? Let me remove my vest as well. Oh, ears exploded. What happened? What did I do? I didn't mean to screw with anybody's ears. Something got very loud at the end, I guess. And I can't really monitor it without giving the game away. No? Look for the red. Red equals right. Let's do this. It's been a real shitty week, hasn't it? Really quite awful. I'm shocked, frankly, at how bad this week has been. Interesting. How is the sound? I seem to be getting some interference. But I don't know if it's just my monitors. It might just be my monitors. But I've no way of knowing, unfortunately. Which sucks. That sucks. That sucks. Oh, the please stand by was loud. I apologize. I didn't realize how that was going to go down, really. A little bit quiet. Let me crank it up a little bit now. Yeah, turn it down. Turn it down a little too much. Oh, I think that was the problem. Thank you, voice quills. Because I had it cranked so loud that I was also cranking the noise, which causes all kinds of icky problems. Okay, so how are y'all doing? Let me say hi to everybody. I have had horrible luck recently when it comes to my internet connection. I think I'm back now. I think. No, that wasn't a power out. That was a user error How's a pepkek? Problem exists between user and keyboard. Keyboard and chair. Keyboard and chair. Problem exists between keyboard and chair. I did not hook my Mac up directly to the Ethernet cable, which means, of course, that there are going to be issues. Miza, how are you doing? Pavi, hi. Alexi, hello. Ms. I already acknowledged you. Chandler Ansel, I don't think I've seen you before. Hi. We're back. All right. Yeah. Is that old? Is Pepcak? How old is Pepcak? I don't, like, I'm so beyond, at this point, it's like I'm beyond things that, everything has gone out of style, and everything that I thought was new is already old, and it just all kind of clumps together. All right, so this week has been insane. It has been, like, look at this stuff. How many people here are I'm assuming everybody is following the, okay, I see that. Damn it, Q. Oh my gosh, is it 1 year? Does this mark 1 year? That's amazing. You shouldn't be super chatting me for that, but that is, I didn't even know that. So thank you for telling me, because I don't follow the world, including stuff I'm doing very well at all. But so people have been, y'all have been following the police officers who were at the Capitol riot, the suicides there. There have been 4 suicides since the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. 2 of them, well, no, they actually weren't on the same day. They were revealed by the press on the same day, on Sunday, which, when I found out about it, made it seem like there was going to be a lot more, right? Because I got an alert about 1 at Sunday, maybe 3 o'clock, and then I got another one at like 7 o'clock. And it made me think that, you know, first of all, that kind of stuff is self-perpetuating, or if it's something that is, you know, PTSD, and the other people who went through it with you, you see, you know, that they're deciding that they can't live with it, then that might be the thing that puts you over the edge, right? And then the sort of the other part of me is like, a fair amount of them. So like, obviously I want to be really respectful. Their names have all been released, right? But they're Metropolitan police officers and DC police officers, Capitol police officers. I'm not even sure. I know the difference between a Capitol police officer and a Met police officer. But most of them were family, had wives, kids, had been on the force for, you know, a pretty long time, had seen some pretty horrible stuff. And it just strikes me as really bizarre. And the last thing I am anti-conspiracy. Conspiracies are generally ridiculous, but 4 people committing suicide in an incident that's being investigated now. Right, there was testimony over the past week or 2. It's got my antenna up, and it's freaking me out quite a bit. And then the day after that, there was an active shooter at the Pentagon. It was just like we had the guy, you had the Belarusian gymnast. Was she gymnast? Sprinter. She was a sprinter. She didn't want to go back to Belarus. She was given temporary asylum. And like 2 days after that, they find the leader of this organization that helps Belarusian exiles find housing, legal advice. They find him dead in a park of a suspected suicide. Now that one, I'm all like, yeah, that was definitely he was put down by the KGB. So all this and then there's the Blizzard shit that's going on, and the president / CEO stepped down. It's been a really grim week for shit happening, and just sort of making one lose hope in humanity. So it hasn't been a fun week for anybody. I can't imagine, right? So if like there is a sort of misunderstanding, I think, and certainly this misunderstanding for me and a lot of people that I know who are like me, who want to defund the police and want to reform the police and reform the criminal justice system and make a lot of changes, just because it's just pretty clear that we're not doing the best that we can in so many ways. And it's just very different from, when something like this happens, where you have a mob essentially, I mean, it's an insurrection. And it's so weird because I went to Harper's Ferry about a month ago. And Harper's Ferry, for those of you who know anything about Harper's Ferry, I talked about this too, but that was where John Brown sort of held an insurrection, tried to sort of get support from freed slaves to try and essentially overthrow the government, is essentially what he was trying to do there. And he was taken down. He was not killed. He was hung, but he was foiled by Robert E. Lee, which in a lot of people or people refer to that as the first battle of the Civil War. But John Brown, different circumstances, he was still wrong. I mean, he was still wrong to do it the way in which he did it. What his cause was justified, and he was, I think, pretty clearly in the right with what his ends were, but the means were extremely dangerous to lots of people. And so it's similar in ways to the January 6th insurrection, and I don't think that it's political in that way, because you can want to defund the police, you can think that there are all kinds of problems with government, and you can also think that charging into the Capitol building and scaring people. Some people, apparently, one of the cops had a heart attack because he was shocked with his own taser, testified that, he heard them screaming, kill him with his own gun, all this kind of stuff. And the guy giving this testimony he did not look like someone who spooks easy, right? But I realize that's not that's a broad generalization based on appearance that shouldn't make. But what was my point? So my point was, like, it's very easy. I don't find it to be at cross purposes or to be contradictory or to be hypocritical to say defund the police. Also, don't put police officers, because individual police officers, there are extremely bad individual police officers. But just like we can't say when it comes to prison reform, we can't say, well, just don't commit crimes, right? We can't tell people like, well, if you don't commit crimes, you're not going to be thrown in jail. One, that's not true, right? But two, that's you can't just look at it that way and think it's that simple. You have to address the root causes of things and not the symptoms that are bubbling up to the surface. And that, maybe the things that are affecting you immediately and the things you want to have a quick fix that you can apply. But it just doesn't exist most of the time. certainly not in something as ingrained as, say, the criminal justice system or the standards of policing. So my point is, I don't really know what my point is, but what kind of horrors, I can't imagine how horrifying it must have been, right? To have a mob of people who, I mean, it's really clear where the blame for this, lies. If you want to talk about like that one day, right? If we can kind of draw a line around it and say, okay, we're just talking about this one incident. There's a direct line from Trump to the insurrection, right? That's not. I don't see how that's debatable. It'd be interesting to hear someone argue against it. I've heard nothing from anyone, certainly not Jim Jordan, as to why that could be considered anything but a sort of yelling fire in a theater from the ellipse in D.C., with the pomp of the president and the sort of the rhetoric that he uses that's inflammatory and divisive, and made people think that, hey, the president of the United States has my back. So this must be right. I must be doing what is right. It's just, what do you, like in that situation, what is the source of the despair? It must be coming from all sides. It must be from the event itself, which would be hugely traumatizing. Then seeing the arguments being made now, and really starting like a month or two after, like really starting right after Biden was sworn in, where they were immediately trying to downplay what happened that day. But, I was there. I wasn't actually there, but I was a few miles away. And I saw many helicopters flying over that day. Anyway. Mesa, good night. Hope you have a good time, whatever you're going to do. It was good to see you. But so you have like these, you have the trauma of the incident itself, and then you have people telling you afterwards it wasn't a big deal, right? And also the person was to blame, you're being told, oh, that person didn't really, like, why is it his fault, right? Like these were American citizens who all, sort of made up their own minds and decided, assuming it's not a conspiracy, which, it's in my mind, it's just weird. Like, obviously it's good that there's an investigation going on. But I just cannot imagine the amount of mental strain that Capitol police officers and DC Metro police officers had to go through on that day. It would make me, I'm just venturing into suppositional territory, but I feel like it would make me so full of like hate and rage. I might find it very difficult to do my job, right? Or do my job, in a way that doesn't involve hurting lots of people. Oh, wait a second. What's going on, Nick? Are you okay? Right. Well, I would imagine, Nicholas, that this would bring up some of these issues in people who have like relatives who are police, or friends who are police officers. I guess it depends. I don't think I'm an abolitionist in the sense of, I think we don't need a police force. I'm more of a reformist. But what I think changes a lot Yeah, this was interesting too, right? So Cori Bush led a charge on the steps of the building, same building where January 6th was stormed by a bunch of Trump train mag idiots. At that on the steps of that same building, right? She's been camped out and had AOC come by, and Bernie Sanders was there to try and get this eviction moratorium lifted. And it's such a like, I don't see how Biden could claim this as a win. This was buckling to political pressure that he should have been prescient enough and like human enough to just see that this needed to be done without having to have it like driven home by the Vox Populi as led by I think a sophomore senator, Cori Bush. Is this her first? It's either her first or second term, who, has a lot of credibility on the subject because she herself was without a home while raising a kid for quite some time. So, people can't, I feel like when faced with that, oh, look at this. Up there. What's up there? When people come face to face with that, it's very difficult to argue against. And there were so many people saying that was political theater and nothing was going to change. And there's some question now as to the constitutionality of what Biden did. Whatever. The outcome was right. And I realize earlier I was saying that outcomes don't justify means. But I'm nothing if not inconsistent. So let's leave it at that. Yeah, it was like just a little tweak. One at the testimony, more than one police officer was like, my instinct was to fire. I didn't fire because I would have been that would have been all the justification that the mob needed. If one of those police officers, and I realized that within the rotunda, somebody was climbing through the barricade and she got shot after being told to stay out, climbing through a window that she broke that was barricaded, coming into the area where the Congress was. So I don't know. I feel like it would have been. I'm amazed at the restraint, honestly, that was shown. I don't know how we got by that one. And same thing with COVID. Right, I know COVID is not over yet, but right, it could have been. It could be so much worse than it is, and it might still be so much worse than it is. Who knows? I like that the WHO came out against boosters, sort of as a preemptive strike. But there's a fallacy in the reasoning there. The reasoning that's given is that, well, a lot of people haven't had their first shots yet. But and I realize this is sort of a first world centric view, but the problem is that someone getting a booster shot, I wouldn't get a booster shot, but someone getting a booster shot does not prevent someone else not getting their first shot. It's not that kind of supply chain problem. They're either, if the doses are, say, in the UK or in the United States, they're not going anywhere else, right? They can't. So, especially once they've been deployed, that's it. It's use it or lose it. So, when you're throwing away hundreds of thousands of doses every day because you can't keep them, then I think it's a little weird to say, well, we don't want to do boosters because of this. This is like the same kind of stuff that gets the CDC in trouble when they talk in these sort of defined declarative statements when they know they feel like their justification is, well, we have to be very clear and declarative, otherwise people will get confused. But at the same time, in the long run, they're eroding their own credibility. And this is kind of like a similar thing. It's similar in that I don't think, and I realize the WHO is not the CDC, but I don't think that like saying, don't get a booster because other people haven't had their shots yet. I don't think that's the right way to go at it. I think the right way is don't get a booster. You don't need one, right? We'll determine when and if you need one, and that's when you'll get one. Like, we all, like it or not, we all signed a social contract by being born in a country. So, I mean, I would not go to war, and I've said this before, and millions of people feel the same way, would not defend anyone's capitalistic self-interest. But I would be like, well, look, we don't want to breed a variant that is, say, lives twice as long and completely evades even, mitigation from the vaccines, much less immunity. I don't want that stuff to happen. Who would want that stuff to happen? I will do everything I can to get out of jury duty, but I'm going to take a vaccine when I'm told. Anyway. Why don't we read a story tonight? Do you want to do that? I don't think we did that last week. And we still have some stories left. So if you would like to read a story tonight, let me pop up the old email. And if y'all don't want to do it, I might just do it. Turn on. Just shoot me an email there. Preferential, well, I guess it goes, if you want to and you've never done one before, you're in. If you want to and you have before, you're probably still in. But let me know one way or the other. I think Catarina already reached out. But if there's somebody who's listening tonight who has been thinking, I would kind of like to read a story, didn't get to yet, and you'll want to, why not do it tonight? And also, if you want to read, well, yeah, if you want, what am I saying? Oh my God. So yeah, Vitaly Shishov, leader of the BDU, found dead in a park. These are actual, by the way, these are actual items that I'm planning on doing for the video, but I just didn't get it filmed. I didn't get it videoed in time. Didn't want to. Look, now you can see the top of my head in it. Hey. How's it going? This is Phoenician Sailor's hairline. Quickly retreating hairline. Look, like my hairline ends right there. It's like, what is that? It's like an inch of screen space. There was a time when I would have had to been like this. But now, soon, I could be like that. And that'll be all of my hair. Just sitting on top of my head, the very, very top of my head. That's how I'm going to go bald. Instead of from the top out, I'm going to go bald up until it forms like just a little disc on the top of my head. I like that. I like this view. Anyway. How many stories do we have left? That's a great question that I don't know the answer to. I want to say 1,000. Well, we have 1, What's the slowest way I can do this? 1, 2. That's not the way I'm going to do this. That is ridiculous. Google Docs, you suck. Okay, have some emails from people who have already read. But that's fine. We can do that. Let me respond. Is this gonna work? Is this gonna work? Now we have this whole, like I set this up as a particular way. It was not really, as usual, it's not really with interviews in mind. So I screwed it up. Why is let's fix that gamma a little bit. Fix the gamma. I like the darkness though. I believe in a thing called love. Yeah, let's do this the right way. Sorry. Okay. Send in the emails. Since the people who have responded are people who have read before, I'm just going to go in order of who emailed first. So let's see if we get that call, and then let's see how and if. Oh, I think we can. I'm good. I've got this. Why do I doubt myself all the time? The whole point is so I don't have to, I can take a little bit of a break and do stuff like this. Oops, gotta have my sound effects unmuted. Stuff like this. And this. By the way, while we're waiting for someone to call, saw Pig last night. It's a movie with Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is always entertaining to watch. I find it interesting that Adam Arkin is always cast as a villain, and his father, Alan Arkin, is always cast as a good guy, when if you look at pictures of them side by side, Adam Arkin has the less sharp, less villainous looking features, and Alan Arkin has more traditionally villainous features. And yet Adam Arkin is always the one who is getting cast as a villain. So hey, you knew going, or at least I knew. I was like, oh, Adam Arkin's in this. He must be the villain. I don't know. I was also thinking, like, Nicolas Cage has been doing this for forever, right? I mean, I don't know how long, but pre-Raising Arizona, what was that kind of Fast Times at Ridgemont High type movie that he did? Not Wild at Heart. There was something like Wild. No, the Wildlife I'm thinking of. That was Sean Penn's brother. That was Chris Penn. Anyways, imagine being Nicolas Cage and you're doing all these movies with all of these like first time 20-something-year-old directors. And probably a lot of them are like pitching ideas to you that you probably have like seen and or tried a lot before, and they haven't worked for one reason or another. And you have to be like, oh, let me take it. Let me have a little word with you. I think I know what you're going for here, but you gotta trust me. Like, directors have asked me to do this many times in the past. and it's never worked out well. So maybe you just let me do what I want to do. What I want to do is scream and be very, very loud, and then be very, very quiet. I want to be quiet most of the time, and then there will be a moment or two where I'm extremely loud, and that will give the acting will have dynamism that way. You'll have these long, quiet moments where Nicolas Cage is going, I just want my pig. I love my pig. Kind of looking off to middle distance. And then someone stands in the way of him getting his pig. He bears out. All right, so the first caller is Catarina. Second caller is Nick. So let's jump into this and let's see if we can get through. If we can get through 2 stories, that'd be great. That would be a. Well, no, we usually do 2 stories. I don't know why I'm acting like that's anything that's unusual. Let me grab a story. And I'm going to grab, again, highly scientific way that I grab stories. I just pick one like this. And the one that I have picked is called The Prophets. And it's by Chels, who has not been able to join us recently. I think might have gotten a new job. I'm not 100% sure. But regardless, Chels' story, The Prophets, is about to be read. Oh, by the way, Levy, I saw this. Oh, well, I didn't see. No, here's what I saw I saw Matthew McConaughey reading on his channel. He read Where the Wild Things Are. And it was just as insufferable as you might expect it to be. At least to me it was. Anyway, please welcome back Catarina. Hi, Catarina. How are you doing? Can you hear me?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but there's a bit of a delay. Let's see. Sometimes this happens, and then just after a minute or two, it just fixes itself. It kind of catches up. So I don't want to go too crazy trying to fix it, because I think it might just resolve in a minute. So I sent you. Oh no, I didn't. Sorry, Catarina. How are you doing, by the way?
I'm fine. It's raining. I am a bit tired, but it's fine. Thank you. How are you doing?
It's been a weird night, or it's been a weird week. But sorry, I'm trying to get this sent to you. But yeah, it's very late where you are. It's
2:30.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
Okay, I just sent you The Prophets by Chels. Let me know. Yeah, got it now? And then let's see could you say something so I know if the lag caught up with you or not?
Test.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it totally caught up. At least on my end,
Right.
it did. So I'm going to turn over, well, you know the drill. I'll turn over the floor to you.
Yes.
And so this is, how do you say your last name, Catarina? I'm sorry.
Eisenhuber.
Eisenhuber, okay. I was going to say Eisenhuber, so I wouldn't have been too far off. But so this is Catarina Eisenhuber.
Okay, forget about the last name. Forget it.
This is Catarina reading The Prophets by Chels. And take it away.
Good evening. The Prophets by Chels. One gloom night, in a place where no innocent soul dwells, the prophets were waiting. An abandoned car park made for a nice venue for the little rendezvous with the rivals who were about to arrive. The only light for miles came from the vehicle's headlights, illuminating the world ahead of it, while leaving the world behind it invisible to any curious eyes brave to approach, blinding them of those who may hide within it. They stood in silence, as did I. I do as they do, as I am one of them. At least that's what I want them to think. Finally, a second set of headlights could be seen in the distance, approaching this most unusual of battlegrounds. As the car pulled up, the presence of the representatives from the rival group who stepped out to face us only added to my nerves. 4 vicious faces glared at me, and they belonged to men who were taller than me, stronger than me, and clearly unhappy with the actions of the prophets that triggered this confrontation. That I was there at all, one of 3 chosen to meet them, a simple newcomer, so soon and without question, made me even more anxious. The center of the car park where we met felt more like no man's land. We were currently outnumbered 3 against 4, though I was clearly the weakest of the lot, so I could easily be overpowered. The two other prophets, Adams and Della, who unlike me were devout followers of the cult, appeared to be completely calm, like the early mornings of spring. "So, the old man's snuffed it, has he?" one of the rebels said mockingly. Adams inhaled deeply. It wasn't in the nature of the prophets to shout and make a scene, even in the middle of nowhere. "Not yet, but he's becoming weaker. It won't be the time for him to step down and break bread with death, and for this successor to take his place," Adams replied. The 4 men smirked at each other. They were unwilling to believe a single word that came out of his mouth. I didn't blame them. "Give it up, will you?" another said. "You are mad, completely mad. Mad enough to follow a dying god. I wouldn't dream of having faith in something so weak." "Watch your tone," Della said, his almost deadpan face barely flinching. It seemed like they didn't see a need to express anger to intimidate their enemies. Their words were enough. I knew very little about the prophets before joining them, or at least anything that was the truth. So many rumors float around the city where they are based. All I knew, and what anyone who was aware of their existence knew, for sure was their belief. Their belief that God, like any living thing, dies, and upon his death a human being on earth takes his place. The current God was deteriorating, and his final day was approaching. His final day, apparently, was tomorrow. "Is there at all?" Adams asked after a moment of tense silence. "We are rather busy at the moment and can't afford to waste valuable time." All 4 men, insulted, straightened their backs. I saw hands starting to hover over back pockets. Switch knives were a popular weapon of choice among the many cults and gangs operating across the country. They were like a pack of lions, preparing to pounce at their prey. "You've been kidnapping children again, haven't you?" one questioned. "No," Della replied. That type of thing reflects badly in the rest of us. It's sickening. It needs to stop," another added. "There's nothing to stop. Like I said, we haven't been kidnapping children," Della said. "Bullshit," the first one snarled. I agreed. It was bullshit. I'd seen children wandering around the gate community where the prophets are based, parents nowhere to be seen. However, from the ones I had spoken to, they all claimed to be happy there, and claimed that they weren't necessarily taken there, but that they had come to the prophets at their own free will. A 6-year-old saying they were drawn to a place disturbed me, but I just assumed what anyone would assume upon hearing such a statement. It's just what they are told to say. On the other hand, the idea that they weren't being forced to say such a thing, and that they were being honest, and that they just wandered from their homes and families to join a cult, worried me deeply. In fact, it terrified me. But I was a rational man who believed in science, who didn't believe in God or the prophets. It was all a con to me. The prophets were nothing more than a group of criminals, dangerous criminals. If there's one thing I didn't pass for, it was a dangerous criminal. The enemies were also dangerous criminals, could see that. One stepped closer to me. And you, he started menacingly, do you think God is on your side? Yes, I replied immediately. I'd rather be attacked by a gang with the protection of another gang than have both of them take their anger out on a wretched body. What followed were the switch knives appearing from their pockets as they bellowed insults and threats in our direction. The pack was about to pounce. That was until she got out of the car. The rivals froze as the preacher appeared from the abyss beyond the beaming headlights. I learned in this moment that it wasn't necessarily the prophets who were feared by all. It was feared by all. It was her. I don't know her real name, but I know what she can do. Though I don't know But I know what she can do, though I don't know how she does it. She approached them as casually as the slaughterer approaches the abater, her hands in inner pockets of her long black coat, the sound of her brogues meeting the dirt beneath her with each steady step, filling the stunned silence. When she was about a meter away from me, she halted and studied her rivals. Her eyes flicked from each bewildered face and meandered over their bodies. She was judging every inch of them. Every worthless inch. Would you like to repeat your speeches one at a time, please? I couldn't hear you clearly from the car, despite the volume, she said. The red man remained silent. I did hear you say something about my God being weak. Would you care to elaborate on that statement? The man remained silent. The knife needs sharpening. I can see how blunt it is from here. If you're going to threaten people, you might as well do it with an ineffective weapon that is actually capable of doing the job right, don't you think? The man remained silent. Come on, boys. If you're going to yap at us like dogs, you might as well stand by what you say. And if you're going to kill us, show a bit more skill and professionalism. I pity you. You're missing out on something beautiful. Beautiful. You've lost the last shred of respect I had for you. And with that, she turned around and walked back to the car, gesturing for us to follow. They clearly weren't worthy of her time and presence. The men were still standing exactly where she left them as they pulled out of the car park and sped away into the darkness. Are you all right, Hastings? The preacher suddenly asked me from the front passenger seat, keeping her eyes on the blur of the passing road. I was glad, as she wouldn't have seen the surprised expression on my face. Yes, I'm fine, thank you, I replied. Good. She leaned her head against the window and stayed that way during the whole journey back. She always looked exhausted with her pale skin, dark eyes, and relaxed manner. How is it then that she can instill such fear into her rivals? An old, now defunct cult in the northern district of the city is to blame. The story goes that they were once the prophet's main rivals. After many violent incidents, this group achieved something many of their counterparts had only barely attempted before failing miserably. They had caught the preacher, surrounded her, beat her, and murdered her. They returned to their land in jovial spirits, bragging to the others that they had badgered the bitch. However, before they could inform the prophets of their tragic and damaging loss, they received a surprise visit from a very bitter rival. The preacher, drenched from the downpour that had soaked her previously lifeless body, entered the quarters and slitted their throats of her killers. The rest were spared and lived on to tell the tale. It was a terrifying, adrenaline-filled tale, worthy of a place amongst other myths and legends. As that's all it was. A tale, a myth. And it was one of the first tales about the cult I was told upon joining. They were eager for me to know about it, showing how proud they are of it, as one is proud of any lie they get away with. When they arrived back at the estate, many of the followers were still awake and celebrating. The land of the prophets owned was around 20 acres in size, plenty of room for the 200 or so followers that stayed there, and was located on the outskirts of a large derelict forest. They claim to have been living there for over 80 years, despite their faith being as old as religions such as Christianity. Apparently, they have always moved around to different locations. In the past, it was mainly to escape persecution for their unorthodox belief. Now it was to spread the word, with minimal success. The preacher made a beeline for the nearby woods, saying she needed a walk. She went for walks a lot, seeming to enjoy her own company. The rest of us entertained what they call the town hall, where Matthew Thorne, the leader of the prophets and apparently God's successor, was sitting upon a golden throne, something he'd requested he made especially for him. He was exactly where he wanted to be, in the center of attention. He was asking, or demanding to be more precise, women to sit on his knee or on their knees by his throne. They were being led to believe they were sitting in the lap of God. As he bragged about receiving messages telling him he was next and to prepare himself for ascension. He was clearly lying. Matthew Thorne was a man who loved attention. No, he thrived off of it. He needed it as much as one needed air. It's likely that he sees himself as being the center of the universe anyway, so would leap at any opportunity to make others think the same. He was a typical cult leader, longed for attention, adoration, and complete devotion from his followers. An abhorrent excuse for a human being, if you ask me. As we reached him, we kneeled before him, and I resisted the urge to roll my eyes. While he was a pathetic man, he was still dangerous, as most pathetic men are. Where is she? He slurred down at us above the noise of singing and laughing. He was above talking about the preacher, and he was obviously drunk. I saw this as being risky. If there's one thing I know nobody would want to do while hungover, it's ascend to heavens and take the reins of the universe as a god. She's gone for a walk, Adams answered. Thorne rolled his eyes. That bloody woman! Where does she go at night? We're supposed to be here, helping me celebrate. If she wasn't so damn ruthless, I'd teach her a thing or two. Thorne laughed. It was a horrible, narcissistic laugh. The laugh of an individual lacking any consideration for others. A loud, ear-piercing, blood-boiling laugh, like that of a rich man having just collected taxes from a starving family. I was surprised that the preacher wasn't by his side at this moment, as she was his main advisor and protector, his right-hand woman. She was also in charge of finding new recruits. In fact, when you sit back and look through the lists of her jobs, she seemed to be running the whole cult. One of those jobs, the one that most likely made her as feared as she was interrogator. I'd heard stories that, despite being a rational man, I could absolutely believe. She had been described as the embodiment of chaos while keeping completely still. Since my arrival, I'd never seen her eat or drink, and the permanent grey shading under her eyes suggested she got very little sleep. If you wanted an interrogator who gets results, she'd be the one. She looked like she was constantly suffering, so knew how to properly inflict it onto others. The celebration lasted all through the night. The following day, the day that had been anticipated for almost 500 years, the devotees of the prophets, despite the lack of sleep and hangovers, gathered together for an hour of mourning. The sound of wailing and crying filled the cold morning air. I tried to be as convincing as possible, choosing to curl up into a ball on the ground and sob into my knees. It felt surprisingly good, to be completely honest. The only people who didn't cry were Thorn, who was not afraid to remain gleeful on his apparent big day, and the preacher, possibly because she was incapable of being emotional. When the morning had passed, the people switched the celebratory spirits back on at Thorn's command, almost like he had a remote controlling them. He could turn their brains to any channel he wanted. He could mute them when he pleased, or make them louder if that's what he desired. I glared at him and saw he was loving every minute of it. He had been taking advantage of those people's gullibility, also it could be God. He was basically already a god in their eyes. Where would he risk losing that? The moment finally arrived. The preacher, looking paler than usual, if such a thing is possible, announced that at 8 o'clock the ascension would begin. The devotees carrying Thorn like he had just won the World Cup followed her deep into the forest. The energy was unlike anything I had ever witnessed before in my life. Tears of pure joy streamed down the faces of those who believed they were about to witness something so significant they were about to be proven right. Every other religion in the history of mankind was wrong, and they were part of the few in the entirety of history who got it right. I felt bad for them, as no such thing could possibly happen. As a rational man, I followed the science, and the science had proven deities to be fictional. Of course, I can't say it as bluntly as to avoid deeply offending those with beliefs. Personally, I thought humanity needed to grow up and take it on the chin. You were wrong. There's nothing. Deal with it. I'd never say that. I was a rational man, but not completely heartless. The preacher and what appeared to be every child of the cult led the way. She held the hands of 2 children who occasionally glanced up at her with adoring eyes, and puppies with their owners. All of the children loved her for reasons I never understood. She wasn't a pretty woman like the princesses in their fairy tales. She didn't look like a caring woman like the fairy godmother. She didn't look like someone with a strong maternal instinct. She didn't even look much like a woman by not passing for a man. In her own unique way, she didn't look human. Whether this was intentional or not was beyond me. I found it baffling how those children wanted to be around her. Children are drawn to cute things like kittens and fluffy dogs. She resembled neither. Their behavior around her and their admiration of her concerned me deeply, as it seemed so abnormal. We came to a halt on the outskirts of the woods on the edge of a cliff, the so-called grave of the gods. The devotees gathered round eagerly, each trying to get a good view. Soren was lowered to the ground and skipped to the edge of the cliff. Looking down, he laughed madly and raised his hands in the air. He started a speech which was just as wild and narcissistic as you could imagine. He couldn't believe that these people still had so much faith in him. This man controlling the universe. Do they truly want that? However, at what seemed to be the end of this speech, judging by the confusion and mild concern on the preacher's face, he appeared to go off script. Before we can go ahead though, there's something we need to do first. Our dear Lord demands a sacrifice, he announced jovially. The tone shifted dramatically as the crowd stopped cheering. The preacher glared at him, making no attempt to hide the hatefulness in her eyes. This wasn't supposed to be happening. All the books detailing this event had never mentioned this. Why was he doing it? Losing his patience as no one stopped forward to volunteer, he harshly grabbed the nearest child. The crowd gasped and glanced at them with mad eyes. It has to be a virgin, so unless you've been engaging in some very illegal behavior without telling me, this is the only way to be sure, he explained in a disgusting manner. The child cried and tried to pull away. The crowd stood by and watched, and I had never felt so helpless. I couldn't stand back and watch the murder of an innocent child at the hands of this sick man, but I'm also surrounded by hundreds of people who believe that the man about to kill this child was a god. My efforts would be useless. However, there was someone who clearly didn't feel so helpless. "You are no god," the preacher said. Soren halted and turned to her, surprised at her sudden disobedience. "What did you say?" he questioned in disbelief. Tense silence filled the air. Slowly she stepped towards him. "You are no god. You are a blasphemous traitor. You have lied to all of these good people, and now you threaten their lives. You have taken advantage of the good nature, and oh, he is not happy about it. Believe me, I know." The child managed to slip out of Soren's weakening grip and raced to the preacher, who pulled him into a hug. She looked furious and dangerous, but the child was unfazed by this. Soren looked uneasy and couldn't hide his fear. "He chose me," he yelped in a pathetic attempt to maintain some sort of authority. Like lightning, the preacher was as inches from him and grabbed him by the collar, pulling him close to the stern, terrifying face. "Stop lying," she growled, so low that it was barely audible to anyone beyond the first row of followers. "You have no idea what it's like. The agony. Imagine your body starting to decompose while still walking the earth like a zombie, like a creature, merely a thing that exists but possesses barely any life within it. Your spirit growing stronger, longing to break free from its weakening shell. How one doesn't go insane from such an ordeal is, well, a miracle." Tears started to form in the corners of Soren's eyes as the intensity of the preacher's words. He was petrified. She leaned in closer to its whimpering face. "And you know what, Soren? I've loved every agonizing second." And with that, a blinding light shone down onto the scene. I can't explain what went through my head while watching this. It's an indescribable experience. I was frozen and at the mercy of the heavenly light and what hid within it. Upon realizing that this wasn't a dream, I felt a sudden numbing sensation in the back of my neck, and my hands, and on the soles of my feet. I started breathing rapidly. I was hyperventilating, possibly probably having my first panic attack. I wasn't alone. I could hear others around me doing the same. I didn't look around to see the reaction of the followers. My eyes were fixed in the light, and nothing could tear them away from it. It was hypnotic. Zorn, the once loud, narcissistic man who convinced over 200 people that he was a god, was speechless. "Do you hear that?" the preacher projected so all could hear. Zorn, with red eyes, shook his head. It was less as an answer to her question and more as a plea, as he knew what she was about to say. "He demands a sacrifice." And instead she pushed him off the edge of the cliff. The children gathered around the preacher, who let them hug her, rub their faces into her coat, and reach out to her. They heard their small, innocent voices say they would miss her and that they would love her, and she told them she would always be with them. Everyone else stood in stunned silence. But she had another trick up her sleeve. "Oh, Richard, you really thought you were onto something, didn't you?" I winced almost in pain as she said my name while staring directly at me. I stared back, still frozen in shock, my body unable to properly comprehend what was really happening around it. "You thought you were just like everybody else. You thought we were scammers, conmen. You thought we were brainwashing people, snatching children from their gardens and turning them to our way of thinking. Something for you to put into a report and boost your career. You couldn't have been more wrong, my friend. Feel free to report this event, but be warned. You will be seen as a madman like so many before you who witnessed the truth. People don't like the truth. It frightens them. I know you were a trespasser, but sometimes you welcome them here, especially during a time like this. Be thankful we are rather forgiving compared to the others. Understand?" I nodded. It was all I could manage. She turned to her followers, the prophets, the most feared group in the city. They should be feared across the world, maybe not. I considered I feared them as much as I once did. The preacher was a fearful figure, though I now see that she wasn't frightening for her face, but for the truth. A lot of questions I had about her were answered. She was exhausted as her body became weaker and the spirit became stronger. The children loved her as they could sense it. They have been unaffected by the many ideologies and traditions, beliefs of the world. They could see beyond her dark appearance and knew she was something special. She was special. So special. She was special. So special. We all watched in silence as she was suddenly elevated off the ground, and I did what felt like the right thing to do. I dropped to my knees and I prayed. And
that was spectacular. Wait, sorry, hold on a second. Where am I? There. That was great, Catarina. Can you hear me?
yes,
That was great. I know it was long. I'm sorry to know how late it is for you, but a really great story, and I love it.
it was so great. I loved it. It was really intense. I was stumbling over words. I'm so sorry. I was stuttering so much.
No, that was perfect. I think you did a fantastic job. And everyone in chat was
I
saying the same thing.
hardly understand you. I'm sorry.
Oh, you did a perfect job. Are you having trouble hearing me, or?
I have trouble hearing you.
Oh, okay, let me be sure. It might just be you. I should be Am I a
I'm
little,
mixed up. I
might be
can't
a-
turn
might
it
be a
any
little-
louder. Thank you, it's fine.
Oh, I'm a little low. Apparently my volume was a little low. Okay. That should be better now, I think.
Yes, it's great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for doing that, Catarina. How are you tired? Super tired?
No, I'm not tired. I surpassed it. It's fine.
No, you pushed in. You've got your second wind, so now you're not going to be able to go to. You don't work tomorrow though, right? You have Thursdays.
I'm on vacation.
Oh. So for the rest of until when? Until
the last week of August. We are on holiday. The kindergarten is closed.
Oh, I mean, kindergarten's lovely, but it's nice to have a break from it as well.
Yeah, it's lovely, but it's nice to, especially this year was so exhausting. This year was so exhausting with COVID and all this stuff. So
Is next year going to be any better?
No, next year won't be better. Next year won't be really worse.
Yeah. Well, take advantage of the rest of August as best you can. And thank you again. That's the second story that you've read for us, and they were both fantastic. So.
I thank you for letting me read. I know I'm not the preferred reader here.
That's not true. What do you mean? Your accent is like hypnotizing. It's fantastic.
That's so kind of you. Thank you. I think I'm stuttering the whole read through. What is this word? I don't know this word. Blah, 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 blah.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Thank you, Scott. That's so kind.
Okay, I hope that you're able to. Well, maybe you don't need to sleep. You just push through till sunrise. All right, and we'll talk soon, okay, Catarina?
Thank you, Scott. Good night.
Right,
Good night,
care.
everyone.
Good night. That was great. I loved that. So now we're going to do... So I tried to let everyone know with my super slick crawling text at the bottom. Y'all know Nick. If you don't know Nick, to know Nick is to love Nick. There's a joke in there somewhere about know Nick, but I can't think of it at the moment. And the story is called Spectrophobia, and it's by Ms. Ms., your last name is in the written by, but I don't know if you want us to just say Ms. So maybe we'll do that. Let me bring Nick on, and we can discuss whether or not we say your last name. Oh, wrong side. Okay, how's that? Can you hear me okay, Nick?
Good.
Yeah?
Good. I
How
can
you
hear you
doing?
okay. Yeah. I'm doing very well.
There's
Doing
that
very well.
lag.
We're going to be
in the-
using the lower register for this one, so hopefully I can keep it. Oh, okay.
There's lag, but I think what happens is
I'm hoping to keep the lower register throughout.
Okay, and I think what happens is like there's lag and then it just catches up. I don't really know why, but I don't know how this magic stuff works. But you have the story. You're ready to jump into it.
I have the story. I have been drinking water. I'm ready when the lag catches up.
Let's see if it's. I think you're pretty close. Can you give me a test? There's a.
Do we
couple-
have from Ms. whether they want their last name read?
Ms., do you want us to say your last name or no? We could just assume no, probably, unless we hear him say differently. Just in case, because I made that mistake I think once before with somebody else, so I'd rather play it safe.
No worries.
Just play it safe.
I'm not sharing the screen, so I can just not say it.
Okay, there is a significant lag between your video and your audio. Do you think you could call back real quick and see if that fixes it? All right, we'll have Nick back in 1 second. Not usually a problem with Nick. Sometimes it's a problem with people, but usually not with Nick. So let's see. Let's see if that's any better.
Ah!
Oh, that's so much better.
Okay, good.
So much better. Maybe it actually gets worse because you were in the green room for the entire last story. So maybe it gets worse with time.
Yeah.
So let me turn it over to you. Once more, this is Spectrophobia by Ms. read by Nicholas W. Right? That's
Yeah.
okay. I'm gonna turn the screen over to you. Take it away, Nick.
There, under a scaly willow, laid the open silk casket of your now late grandfather. Your attention not too focused on his placid expression, but rather transfixed on the peculiar gashes ingrained within the splintered tree trunk and the way the leaves pooled in the bitter wind afoot. The gentle weeping from your mother beside you reminded you of the nature of the early outing, peering up at the crumpled tissue held to her face and noting her lipstick shade blotted along the delicate surface. Laid to rest rather peacefully within the cushy confines of the grand oak box was the final grandparent on your mother's side, a man who you were never able to see eye to eye with. According to the emotional reading of the eulogy, from an equally tearful aunt, he'd been somewhat of an agreeable individual who loved life, a phrase you'd heard previously but never quite understood. Regardless of your grasp on the speech, you mainly struggled with said characterization of the deceased. To you, your grandfather always seemed odd, secretive, even, though this was not something you ever thought to articulate. You yourself were young, a child of just 10, too young to understand the very concept of bizarre behavior. The framed and borrowed from previous services inside your aunt's house, photos strewn around the dug dirt grave painted a picture of a family-oriented man. Proof heavy in each and every depicted smile of him and a relative, despite circumstance. Yet not one image of the man who fell silent once you entered a room, keeping a nervous, intense eye on you while you traipsed around rooms as a toddler. Your earliest conscious memory, soon after you learnt to stumble around carpeted floors, was one that you fought to shake off with every subsequent visit. Your grandfather knelt in front of your toddler form with a firm grip around your tiny upper arm, in what felt equally as safe as it did intimidating. To this day, you still sensed his sweaty palm boiling through your skin, a feeling incomparable to any later interactions you'd experienced in your adolescence. Never trust the twin, he'd told you all those years ago, the concept of both trust and twins being something you'd only grasped recently, although never in his context. As long as you'd been alive, and throughout multiple visits to your aunt and grandfather, not once had the prospect of an unknown brother ever been mentioned. You were also an only child, eliminating any possibilities of your own prophesied sibling. Spending such a long time mulling over the same sentence over and over, and with time passing rapidly since it was uttered to you, part of you thought you'd perhaps remembered wrong, a scary possibility of an already deteriorating memory. You thought extensively what he could have been implying, though your already minuscule family tree served as no help. Between you, your mother, your sister, and their father, there left no room for other insight into the cryptic phrase. He'd passed of old age, otherwise being the epitome of health, and ultimately ruling out any prospects of schizophrenia or Alzheimer's. You flinched when your aunt wailed. The casket began its descent into the ground, your mother searching for comfort in your small hand, squeezing tight. A slight pang of guilt hit you for not sparing much emotion for the occasion, though the man was as good as estranged in your recollection. Save for your grandfather's mannerisms towards you, Your childhood had been about average. Despite not knowing your own father, it never bothered you at your age, your upbringing being sufficient enough to not question the dynamic. For holidays, and now funerals, you had your aunt, who always spoiled you rotten, and tittered around the dinner table about how lousy your biological father was before he left.
Nick, I don't know if you can hear me. Nick, can you hear me? Nick. 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 How do I get Nick's attention? Nick's sound cut out, and he doesn't know it, which is kind of funny. Y'all can hear my voice, right? And then we walked over to the... I'm gonna be Nick's voice. And wait, let's see. I don't know where he is in the story. I don't know how to get his attention either, because he's not paying any attention. Nick, can you... He noticed. Oh, it's back. It's back.
Da-da-da. What line did I leave off on?
It was about... Let's see.
Good catch messaging me on Discord, Ms. When the sound cuts out, it's because my headset shut off.
Oh, is that what happened? Ms. got you on Discord. I was here trying to catch your attention by waving my arms like an idiot. I'm
I'll
not
be better
sure
about moving my mouse.
Where did the audio cut out? Do people know? Does peoples know where the audio cut out? I think it was... I mean, you were going for a little while. Let's see. I think we heard... Yeah, the last word was... Maybe there left no room for other insight into the cryptic phrase.
Okay. I'll start a little bit before that for the recording.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you. And it's back to you.
Oh, we're going to have to F3. Oh, no. And we're going to have to F3 on a different page.
Oh, actually, I'm being told it is around where the aunt was crying. The aunt at the dinner table. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So maybe flinched when you're... Yeah, around the same place.
On to the dinner table. Ah, tittered. I'm going to talk a little bit just so people know that I'm not cutting out again. I'm looking for the word tittered because that is one I remember. There we go. Save for your grandfather's mannerisms towards you, your childhood had been about average. Despite not knowing your own father, it never bothered you at your age, your upbringing being sufficient enough not to question the dynamic. For holidays, now funerals, you had your aunt, who always spoiled you rotten and tittered around the dinner table about how lousy your biological father was before he left. It had begun to rain. You basked in the poetic irony, remembering something a teacher had said about a pathetic fallacy in the book you were reading for class. Still sniffling, your mother placed her hand on the small of your back, guiding you towards the car parked behind the plot. Mummy and Auntie Mary just have one more boring thing to do, all right? Then we can all go home. Glancing up at her, noticing the way she was forcing a smile despite her tear-stained eyes, all you felt to do was nod, silently sliding yourself into the back seat. You watched the cemetery trees disappear from view, the faint whispers of the two adults in the front seats barely audible over the low hum of the engine. You caught the entrance archway to town, dirt path underneath you being rapidly replaced with cobble roads. Once you came to a stop, your mother hesitated. She cautiously stepped out onto the pavement, opening your door and leaning in close as your aunt walked on. "This'll just take a minute. We'll be right upstairs if anything happens, okay?" Another nod. The door slammed and you peeked up at the tall building ahead through the rattling glass, taking note of the solicitor sign hung above the door. Minutes passed, turning to 10, turning to 20, before both women re-emerged, dabbing at their cold, blistered cheeks with more tissues. You shuffled to sit upright in your seat, trying to get a better look at the suspicious black gift bag that adorned your mother's arm. The familiar flick of the car's doors reopening made you slump back into place, in an attempt to hide your curiosity. They sat back down with a sigh, causing the vehicle to bob slightly. Turning to face you from the front, your mother flashed the same reassuring smile at you from earlier, leaving the bag on the leather seat next to you. "Take care of this, okay? I'll explain once we're home." A third nod, and you stared at the item tossed to the right of you.
Nice long sip.
The distant blaring of another car's horn startled you awake, unsure of when it was you'd even managed to fall asleep in the back seat. You blinked, weary, the street lamps passing in amber blurs outside, illuminating the darkened road. Your mother had explained, as promised, upon your return home a few hours ago, since you'd been on your way to the countryside. More specifically, a little cottage your aunt had rented for the two of you. According to her, your grandfather had owned a plot, the childhood home of both your mother and her sister, deep in the country, but was unable to maintain the grounds once his wife passed away, decades before your birth. And he gradually got older. He'd been officially living with your aunt for the past 10 years, leaving the farmhouse decrepit for the better part of 20. The black bag still in place by your side contained a letter, the closest thing to a will bestowed upon the family, along with a key to said property. You'd also been told, prior to setting out, that you were going to both visit the old house for a preliminary inspection, then sleep nearby and revisit the damage during daylight. Drawing near, you felt the gravel under the tires screech. There, your eyes met with the exterior off-white brick of the odd-looking building, peeking out from the dense mass of trees. You heard your mother mumble something about your accommodation for the night being further up the road, but your undivided curiosity was on the run-down, detached residence. As soon as the car came to a stop, you found yourself already outdoors, feet stumbling on the twisted weeds and uneven mud underneath. The downtrodden walkway to the front of the building sprawled out a long 20 meters, the lack of landscaping for the last couple of decades equaling in prairie overgrowth for miles. Your mother's voice echoed from behind, warning you to watch your step around the grounds. The solitary house stood tall ahead of your small frame, old wood window ledges deteriorating alongside the thick, fogged glass, embedded within the mudded brick. White paint peeled in patches across the property, exposing the smattering of moss left to grow wildly. Struggling to catch up with you, your mother called again. "Don't run off like that, please." She stopped to recuperate, matching your bewilderment and peering up at the farmhouse. "Wow, I haven't been here in years." You let her go ahead, key in hand. The splintered door barely needed to be unlocked, already buckling with the slightest pressure of being approached. Thick dust shifted with the creak of the hinges, opening to a grayed living room, and the unmistakable smell of animal feces mixed with mold. Instinctively, you coughed, your mother following suit and instantly covering her nose. "Oh, Christ. Remember me to pick up some masks before we come back tomorrow, okay? Glancing towards the wall, you registered what looked like the glint of an eye winking at you in the reflective surface of a vintage clock. You froze. Staring straight back at the item, you were met with nothing but the sight of a stopped clock face, hands strewn in opposite directions. Your mother gave you a look, worried this would be too much for you to cope with in one day. She took hold of your hand, akin to earlier. Hey, let's get some rest for today. We'll be better prepared tomorrow. Maybe we can get some proper air in, too. You had no choice but to agree, dismissing what you saw as sleep deprivation. The crisp air was a relief to your lungs, your first footstep out of the building a welcomed one. Retracing your foot presses in the grass, you'd both returned to where the car was parked on the dirt track. Watching your mother fumble with bags and checking a map with written instructions hastily scribbled along them, her face lit up. Okay then, the cottage is about 15 minutes down the way. It's a straight road. She took a moment to look back at the vehicle. Looks a little too narrow to drive. We'll just leave it here. A nightly stroll will do us good. Lingering in place, you finally convinced your legs to move, walking alongside your mother down the dwindling path. It was more direct than you had anticipated, the only noticeable annoyances being the stray, thin branches that hung too low, making all sorts of unnerving shadows in response to your flashlight, coupled with the disarrayed rocks that littered the floor. Before long, you'd arrived at the promised cottage, evident from the freshly painted cursive "Welcome" sign placed very intentionally at the exterior that this was a common holiday hire. The outside discreetly matched the woodland feel, brown and green hues almost blending with its surroundings, though your first step inside showed you a gutted, minimalist white interior that made you wince. As your mother dropped your bags on the floor, starting the search for your pajamas, she matched your frown. It's just for tonight, come on. Your makeshift bed came in the form of a bland sofa, your 10-year-old stature being just small enough to fit atop the two cushions, while your mother took the sole bedroom. Her exhaustion visible, you both exchanged good nights to each other, and once you'd heard the faint click of her door closing, you rolled over the cramped bed to stare blankly at the painted ceiling. The image of the farmhouse, of the eye you saw, or rather saw you, stayed firm in your thoughts, keeping you tense. In an effort to force you to sleep, you willed your eyes shut and tried to focus on your breathing, but it loitered in your brain all the same.
Another sip there.
Tossing, turning, the moon had risen to its highest point, light leaking through the bay windows and not aiding your quest to sleep. It was still too dark to read the clock on the wall, but you'd been awake for what felt like hours, unable to shake the feeling you were being watched. Miserable, you whined, the clammy itch from the fabric around you proving to be altogether too overwhelming. You shot a look to the bedroom door, confirming no noise or movement, before sneaking out from beneath the blanket and tiptoeing to the landing, using the illuminated rays on the floorboard to navigate. Accidentally kicking the duffel bag placed by the entrance, you knelt to fetch the key to your grandfather's estate, forfeiting its gift housing, and grabbing the flashlight you'd previously used. For a brief moment you hesitated, staring back towards the bedroom and half expecting to be caught in the act, but nothing came. You slipped on your shoes and took your coat, still sporting your pajamas and intentionally aware of making too much noise whilst still indoors. Twisting and collecting the key in the cottage door painfully slowly, you slipped past the wood and held your breath to close it behind you, soft. You took a few steps back, keeping an eye on the entrance, eventually realizing you'd successfully made it outside undetected. The night air remained silent, save for the rustling of leaves in the cool wind, prompting you to slide your coat on and begin your trek back to the farmhouse. For the first time ever, you mentally praised your mother's fixation on temperature-appropriate sleepwear, feeling the instantaneous nocturnal chill through your spine. You tread onward, haphazardly shining your flashlight ahead and catching the ashy greens of the floor around you. Every crackle of twigs underfoot made you jump, the true vastness of the outdoors dawning on you. The stray branches from your initial journey returned to offend, no longer slowly inflicting shadows, but whipping against your cheeks in frenzy. In your cold haste, you failed to notice a particularly large rock on the trail, stone lodging in the flimsy rubber of your sole and sending you downward. Pain sparked immediately, radiating from your knee, colliding with the ground, and you hissed silently at the sting, carefully rolling up your pajama leg to flash your lamp onto the damage. Red shone in the concentrated light, blood smeared across your skin in blotches. All you could do was remain determined, uncertainly standing up and tightening your grip around the key in an attempt not to let the dark get to you. The further you ventured, the louder the gale festered among the trees, barely drowning out the ringing of frogs in the distance. Your breath caught in your throat, heartbeat pulsating in your ears with every rapid step. It was too late to turn back now, speed increasing out of fear of looking behind you. Tears threatened your eyes as panic rose in your chest. Your feet picked up, spiraling into an awkward run as you desperately sought the familiar sight of the building. Squinting to make out the dim clearing, you nearly wept once you recognized the maroon sheen of the parked family car, doubling over to try to recenter your uneven breathing. There, the house still stood. White exterior, somehow luminous against the darkened greenery. It almost seemed larger, unsure if your heightened nerves were at fault for exaggerating. Inspired by the false confident adrenaline of reaching the plot, you stood tall and began trudging through the messy walkway again, keeping your flashlight attentive on every step. Coming back to the rickety front door, you brandished your key and spared no time in trying to unlock it, stopping entirely as the slightest pressure from your palm made the wood creak wide open. You quickly flicked your light over the doorknob, searching for any signs of a forced entry, but found nothing. Glanced at the doorstep for reassurance. The only mudded footsteps visible were your own. Perhaps your mother hadn't locked it properly? Or perhaps someone was, in fact, already waiting. Your legs betrayed you, edging inside the foul-smelling room once more, the firm grip around your lamp boring fleshy pink marks into your skin. Something crashed the second you set foot on the aged wood floor, a gasp escaping you as you fumbled to not drop your items. Rapidly twisting towards the noise, your light caught a pair of glowing eyes near a cracked open window, the unmistakable long snout belonging to that of a fox. Before you could react, the slender animal dashed towards you, barely grazing your pant leg. Shaken, you tried to take a breath, the odor hitting your throat and making you splutter, absent-mindedly stumbling forwards and knocking your already hurt knee on the leather leg of an armchair. You yelped, holding on to the piece of furniture for support and letting your flashlight fall, rolling across the floorboards and slowing in front of the dusty CRT. You followed the sound, peering up at the now illuminated, fuzzy screen and freezing in place again. Eyes met your own, carrying the indisputable same glint as earlier, except this time you had the opportunity to see who they belonged to. Your blood ran cold. Whatever it was staring straight through you from the reflection of the television, it looked exactly like your grandfather, wearing all his wrinkles but not his mannerisms, The way its skin tugged upwards into a sly smile filled you with dread. Nausea stirring in the pit of your stomach. You watched intensely, sliding from the center of the screen to the left, reflection reappearing on the clock you'd spotted it on originally. You scrambled to recover the lamp, following the figure across the living room as it phased through available shiny surfaces, leading you down a hallway. Dust resettled and rotted plank flooring shrieked as you barreled past a wall's worth of glass picture frames, anxious to not lose sight of the imposter. Skidding to a halt, its eye stared back at you from a brassy doorknob that you didn't hesitate in grabbing. Getting ahead of yourself, you swung the door open, the surprisingly shrill screech of rusted hinges stopping you from diving headfirst down the flight of stairs below. You surveyed each tread with your light, taking note of the brick layout and tentatively stepping down, beginning your descent into what seemed to be the basement. Momentarily evading the reflection, you flashed the dingy cellar, the overpowering scent of damp burdening your lungs. Scattered amongst the concrete floor were yellowed papers, varying in nature as well as the usual basement storage of step ladders and toolkits. Pacing forward, you accidentally kicked what looked to be a small, leather-bound notebook, ripped in two, picking it up and opening to the first water-stained page. Tuesday, the 2nd. Today, we buried my wife. The girls were devastated. I don't think it sunk in for me quite yet. Someone suggested I write it down, that it'd help me deal with the emotions. All I feel is tired. I haven't slept since she passed. I could even swear my reflection winked at me earlier. Friday, the 5th. I looked up again. It was the mirror she kept downstairs when we moved in. It used to be covered up, but I thought I'd clean up her things and get my bearings. I wasn't seeing things. My reflection smiled at me. I need to see a doctor soon. You furrowed your eyebrows, rapidly turning pages and continuing to read. Wednesday, the 25th. He won't go away. The pills haven't changed anything. I can't look at myself anymore. All I see is him. I don't know why he's here. I don't know what he wants. I've tried to stay out of the house. He doesn't follow me there. I don't know what he is. Swallowing, mouth dry, you frantically searched around yourself for the other half, begrudgingly making your way deeper into the abandoned basement to find the rest. Passing a long glass jar, the thing wearing your grandfather's face jeered at you from its glossy surface, pouring further into the darkness. Slowly considering whether or not to listen, you eventually reached the back wall, your flashlight catching the shape of something draped with a mangy sheet, bottom hems frayed, but leading you to the ripped-apart second piece of the journal. I don't keep track of time anymore. I thought he was gone today. He's different now. He's not me anymore. It's a kid now. I don't know who this child is. I don't recognize the face. It watches my every move. Friday, 15th. I checked the date because my daughter told me she was pregnant. I'm so happy for you. I can't let that baby into this house with this thing. I have to move out. Scanning the last entry, your face went pale. She gave birth today. I was nearly sick when I saw its face. It looked at me the same way it looks at me in the mirror. A lump caught in your throat. You looked back up at the sheet, a shaky hand extending to the fabric and aimlessly grabbing a fistful, nerves preventing any sudden movement. Taking a sharp breath, you uncovered the shape in a swift motion, clenching your eyes shut and standing painfully still, waiting for a reaction. When nothing came, you opened each eye individually, raising your lamp to see what stood in front of you. The golden-painted, splintered frame caught your preliminary attention, not preparing you for the intense dread of registering the rest of the full-sized glass mirror. You stared in horror, chest rising and falling quick as you threaten to hyperventilate, raking in the image of a calm child no more than 10, wearing your shoes, your clothes, your hair, even sporting the bloodstain on the knee of your pajamas, grinning wickedly back at you. The flashlight dropped from your grip, and you screamed as the bulb smashed against the ground, drowning you in darkness.
Wow. That was something else. Hold on, let me get back on screen with you. That was pretty intense.
Yeah. Did not manage the lower register. I'll have to demo that some other time.
Oh, I thought you were doing. I assumed that was the
I
one.
was doing it, but I'll do it now. Just I raised my voice pretty extensively when I was in middle school. And maybe this is a remnant of some psychological decay, but I'm a little bit deeper when I'm relaxed.
How can I ask how old you are? Well, we don't say how old. When you get
I'm-
older,
Yeah.
your voice is going to get deeper whether you want to.
Oh, yeah.
But it sounds great. Like literally, I was hooked within like 10 seconds. And Ms., that was I thought the second person narrative structure was pretty brilliant. And even like, I mean, I know nobody could see this, but you and I, Nick, but even like the font.
The font's great.
Yeah.
I mean, the actor is nothing without the script, which is something you'll never hear a real actor say.
Oh, how have you been, Nick?
I've been good. I have stories, but I don't want to take away from Mrs. Spotlight.
That's very, very kind. And there will be other, and presuming you stick around, you always have a place to tell your stories. So,
Oh yeah.
Thank you for reading this. So this was Spectrophobia. Yes, Spectrophobia by Ms. I thought that was great. And I've been completely blown away by every story and reader. I really, and I know it seems like we're all just kind of like saying that or whatever, but it really is pretty remarkable. So yeah, I'm really glad that we're doing this. Anyway, yeah. So thanks, Nick, and we will talk again soon and share some stories. Then that'd be good. Okay. All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Take care. Have a good night. That was lovely. Let's see. Hold on. Do I want to do this? Let me see if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to stand up or not. Oh God, well, in order for me to be up on the mic while standing up, I have to be a little bit out of focus. Can I fix you? Can I fix you? That's a little better. Anyway, this is fun. I noticed I had a window open. Haven't closed it. I'm too worried about all the wires that are back here that I might trip on if I do that. So we're getting like some atmosphere. There was a dog barking earlier, and now there is crickets. No more cicadas. The cicadas are gone. The humans are dead. So I saw that. Go get real dramatic here for a minute. I saw that Q had a request, and that request was that I read her story, his story. My fucking God, I fucking suck. Okay. I'm terrible. I'm a piece of shit. Okay. Glad I'm in the dark. right now. So I want to do that. And hopefully I can get through it, because I don't know if I have the stamina, but I'm gonna try. And not because I'm sure it's an excellent story. But man, like listening to everybody read, it's just like, wow, that's difficult. It's not easy to talk for 30 minutes in character. But I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to do this, and I'm gonna do it in this kind of eerie, spooky darkness that you see right here. Although, let's see, maybe I can. It'd be nice if there was a little extra moonlight. Let's see if I can get the moonlight to turn up. Watch the power. Moonlight? Moonlight. Come on, moonlight. Oh, the moon disappeared. Let's bring the moon back. Oh my gosh, that moonlight's really intense. That's maybe too intense for moonlight. It looks good on the background though, doesn't it? Like me being totally in the shadow and the moonlight coming through on the background. I dig it. Let's give this a shot. If y'all are up for it, I am also up for it. So, can we bring you up a little bit? Yep. Let's bring you up a little bit. Oh yeah. I'm liking that. And this way I can be healthy, standing, as I read Q's story, which is called Star. Nobody can play ridiculous sound effects while I'm reading. That's the only downside of doing the reading, is that I can't be trolled. Well, that's just a bunch of bull. I get trolled by you all the time. Okay, let me get into my headspace. And let's do this. Let me also do one other thing, just for added. The benefits of being the host is that I can add a little bit of reverb just to fill out my voice a bit. And let's crank that air a little bit. Oh gosh. Wonderful. I love it. That was the desk, by the way. It's not me. Star by Ms. by Q. My God. That was Spectrophobia by Ms. This is Star by Q. I can't believe you got the internship, Sam said darkly. Me neither, but maybe you can get it next semester, Justin replied, hopeful. Hold on 1 second. That's a little too much. A little too much there. A little over the top with that. Okay. Sam and Justin were in the back, ignoring the syllabus introduction speech, as they did with most of the classes they shared that semester. Forgive me, I need to. You know, if you want to get your foot in the door, you should talk to Professor Candido, Justin whispered, as the professor paused to take questions. I had him last semester, and he knows the head of the IT department. I am not going to be teacher's pet for this internship, dude, Sam hissed back. The professor shot a look towards the back of the room, eyeing the two of them, and Justin engrossed himself in highlighting a page. The professor returned to his droning explanation. That's not what I meant, he whispered again. I hear he's overseeing the Neuralink study and could use some help with the paperwork. Doing unpaid labor so I could do more unpaid labor. Genius, Sam said. Just think it over, okay? I will, he sighed. He really did appreciate Justin looking out for him, as cantankerous as he could be. Sometimes he felt like he didn't deserve his friendship. Justin smiled and nodded before packing up and leaving the room. Database Systems 1 had wrapped for the day. Sam approached Professor Candido, but not before glancing to ensure the classroom was vacant. Professor Candido, he began. Sam, was it? Sam, was it? Professor Candido responded, looking up from his computer. Sam could swear he could see irritation in his face. He could probably recognize his voice from when they were talking over him in class. Yeah, I had a question for you. He paused nervously. Yeah? The professor said impatiently. Well, I was talking to Justin. He said he took a class with you last semester. Anyways, he said that you know the head of the IT department. More important to discuss than the syllabus, was it? He sighed. I do know Dan quite well. Justin said you could use some help with some paperwork. I was wondering if I could, if I helped out, maybe you put in a good word for me? I think that could be arranged. I have some files I was going to go over this lunch break. Would you be willing to do it today? I have a break between classes now, so I'm game, Sam said confidently. Great, Professor Candido said as he stood. You can work at my desk and review the potential participant screening surveys. Let's head over to my office. Sam waited at the door for the professor to pack up his computer and materials. So this is for Neuralink, right? The Elon Musk thing? Sam tried to fill the silence. Yes, it's founded in part by Elon Musk, he said, heading for the exit. So what is it exactly? Sam asked as he walked in stride. It's a neurological implant designed to allow people to control technology with their minds. And why is the computer science department overseeing this? Shouldn't this be a clinical study? It's a joint department oversight at the request of Musk himself, Professor Candido replied curtly. The study brings in a lot of funding for the university, so we oblige his requests. Oh, all right. Well, what am I looking for in the screening surveys? It's fairly simple. You're separating them into two piles, those who are eligible and those who are not. We're looking for men between the ages of 18 and 40, non-married, non-parental, that have no neurological issues in their medical history. Why unmarried and no fathers? I'll explain that once we're in private, the professor said. He slowed his pace and led them towards a building labeled Russell Hall. Sam quietly followed Professor Candido through the monotonous halls of the building until they came upon an office embossed with his name. We're looking for single men without children, he said, shutting the door behind him, because we're trying to mitigate the lawsuits if something goes wrong. Oh, Sam replied awkwardly. I guess that makes sense. The professor unlocked a filing cabinet behind his desk and produced a manila folder labeled Screening Surveys. He locked the drawer. All right. Highlight any of the criteria that disqualify a candidate. Make the two piles. I'll be back in half an hour. That should be plenty of time. He motioned to the chair at his desk. All right, see you after your lunch, Sam said, and eased himself into the seat. Professor Candido left, shutting the door behind him again, leaving Sam to the work ahead. Sam pulled a highlighter from his bag and opened the folder. There was a stack of about 30 surveys, each with a picture clipped to the front. Sam carefully read through each survey, occasionally highlighting red flags like concussion. It was almost too straightforward. Information about immediate family and marital status were on the first page, and neurological medical history was compiled into its own section. You choose to reproduce, so no study for you, Sam put a survey in the rejected pile and reached for another. He looked over to see that this was not a survey, but a document with a neural link printed at the top and a diagram of the insertion of the chip. According to the clock, only 10 minutes had passed. There was time to read this in between surveys. His eyes scanned over the page, met by large blocks of blacked-out text. Upon flipping it over, hardly anything was left untouched there either. He set it down and reached for the next page in the folder. This one said Starlink in the header and was also heavily censored. Sam looked over his shoulder at the door and again at the clock. He put the non-survey sheets back in the folder and closed it, resuming checking over surveys. Once he finished, he noticed sticky notes on the desk and placed one in each pile, drawing a check mark on one and an X on the other. Sam eyed the folder again and jumped when the door opened. "Did you manage to sort through them all?" Professor Candido asked casually. "Yeah, no problem," Sam nodded. He stood up and grabbed his backpack. "Great, I'll give it a look, and if everything checks out, I'll talk to Dan about that internship." "Awesome. Thanks so much." Sam stumbled towards the door. "You might want to tie your shoes, Sam," the professor said. Sam blinked and retied his shoes. He walked out of the office and passed a flyer for the Neuralink study on the hallway bulletin board. He couldn't help smiling. It was nearly a week later that Sam saw an email in his student inbox. From Daniel Pilot to Samuel Little. Subject: Internship. "Hi, Sam. I spoke to Dr. Candido about your interest in the campus IT internship. He spoke highly of your willingness to seek out opportunity and good work ethic. You'd be a star addition to our team when there's an opening next semester. I can get the ball rolling on the process this week. If you're still interested, please respond to this email to let me know. Regards, Dan Pilot, IT Director." Sam was walking out of the science hall after a biology class when he spotted Justin marching through the building and rushed to tap him on the shoulder. Justin jumped, practically tripping, before smiling back nervously. "Hey, man," Sam started. "What are you doing here? Thought you finished your gen eds." "I'm just here to talk to a pre-med student about something," Justin said, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. "About what? Don't tell me you're going to switch your major in your junior year." "I'm, lending some assistance for the study," he stammered. "I really need to get there, too, so, I'll see you later." He rushed away. "Oh, see you later," Sam said, mostly to himself. He was disappointed in the brevity of the conversation. He'd been wanting to discuss those strange documents he found reviewing surveys. Hopefully, he'd get his chance whenever they went out for drinks. Once Dan, the head of the IT department, had received confirmation from the University of Sam's enrollment, he invited Sam to come down to the office. Excitedly, Sam walked to the Cartman Library. Cartman Library, is it? Oh, Carmen Library. My fault. He didn't only want to meet Dan, but also to catch up with Justin. He really wished they'd been assigned to the same dorm again. Clipped text messages and waving at each other in class were not enough. It didn't help that it seemed like Justin was avoiding him since meeting in the science building. He looked for the lower level door around the back that Dan had mentioned. There was an unmarked door with a rusting handle. He hesitantly turned it, fearing it would fall off, but it was perfectly stable. He stepped in and looked around. Years ago, it had been part of the library, even had the same carpet as upstairs, although faded and noticeably fraying. There were several study tables in the wide open area, and behind them were a variety of tech from different eras: CRT monitors, dot matrix printers, even large speakers used for events, stacked against the walls. Whether this was akin to a museum display or a landfill, he wasn't so sure. "Is the printer not working?" asked a voice from behind him. Oh, no, Sam said as he turned around. I'm here to see Dan. Dan didn't mention anyone coming to see him, the owner of the voice said, crossing his arms and taking a step towards him. He was a bulky guy with wariness in his eyes. Sam anxiously took a few steps back, unsteady, as he stepped on one of his laces. He stammered as the man took another step towards him. Sam saw Justin over the man's shoulder and shot him a look. Hey, Connor, that's Sam. It's okay, Justin said, dashing over to place a hand on the man's shoulder. He's going to be an intern next semester. Connor's shoulders relaxed, and he uncrossed his arms. That's all you needed to say, kid, he laughed. Dan's out of town for a while. He'll be back by next semester. Oh, I see, Sam sighed, shoulders drooping. A low sound started, one Sam wasn't really sure he was hearing. By the way, sounds like the server needs maintenance, Connor said to Justin, who was looking through the drawers. Justin looked up, expression dark, as the bulky man tossed a key ring to him. Justin carefully picked out a key with a red marker on it and shuffled around the corner. Our star server is something of a diva, Connor smiled. That's the worst job here by far. You'll find out soon enough. Right, said Sam absently. This place sure is big. That it is. Hey, would I be able to come down here to study? Well, Connor said, thinking it over. The private rooms in the library are usually taken around exams, Sam added. I can hook you up. Connor looked at Sam once over, and something flashed across his eyes. But you have to promise not to bring anyone else here. And you can't touch anything, he added conspiratorially. Yeah, of course. Wouldn't dream of it. Okay. I'll give you my number, and you text me in advance when you want to come down here. Dan doesn't know, but I made copies of the keys so I can come down here whenever I want. Connor winked. Awesome, thanks. You think Justin will be back soon? He's going to be occupied for a while. Okay. Can you tell him to text me? Sure thing. Sam waited until midterms to call in his favor from Connor. Hey, Connor, I was wondering if I could study in the basement Monday, he sent. Hey, Star, of course, Connor texted back. Great. When can I go down there? You'll have to wait until IT is done for the day, at 5. Perfect. I'm more of a night owl anyways. Not too late, though. You'll have to be out by midnight. That's totally fine. Would 7 p.m. work Monday night? Sure, I'll have the door unlocked for you. Just text me when you're done. Sam made his way to the library Monday night, and the door was open as promised. He set down his textbooks, highlighters, colorful pens, and a stack of loose-leaf paper, and began rewriting his notes in a more concise way for the topics of the upcoming tests. While he was thankful for Connor allowing him to come down here, he couldn't help feeling a little uneasy in this wide-open, forgotten basement. Sam was caught up in flagging things in his notes. He wanted to re-summarize when he heard what he thought was a sound. It ceased after a few minutes. He had rewritten a few pages when he swore he heard it again. But again, it faded. Maybe he'd had too many energy drinks today, though he never remembered them causing him to hear things. At least an hour and several more pages of notes had passed. The sound was there again. Sam tried to ignore it, but it was getting louder now. He could only describe it as a wailing. When he'd reached his limit, he put aside his work, followed the sound, and ended up turning the corner and going down the hall. There were several doors down here, close together. He couldn't tell which one was coming from. He felt like he was coming close to touching something. He didn't want to upset Connor. He retreated to the table he'd set up on and packed up. Texted Connor that he was done. Hey, midterms are over. Time to celebrate, Sam texted. I don't know, man. I kind of just want to sleep. Justin replied. Sleep when you're dead, like they say. Come on, I barely talked to you this whole term. Not all of us are creatures of the night, Sam. You can be for one night. Come on, I'll buy. I guess I could have a few drinks tonight. Justin met Sam at the hipster coffee pub that they liked, where Sam was sipping on some craft beer that cost too much. Hey man, what's up? Sam asked. Oh, you know, been busy with stuff, Justin sighed, sitting on the stool next to Sam. Sam asked the bartender for a couple of shots for the two of them, both of which Justin drank. He was putting them down like he'd just been stranded in the desert for a week. He was about 5 shots in when Sam said something. Hey, are you okay? Sam said, still sipping on his beer. Yep, just want to kill some brain cells, Justin said and motioned for his 6th. Sam shot the bartender a look and made a cutthroat motion the next time she came over. She nodded and went back to cleaning glasses. Why do you want to turn your brain off? Sam asked, turning to face his friend. I don't want to talk about it, Justin slurred. Okay, Sam replied. Can I ask you some questions? I guess. So why were you helping with the study? Can't answer that, he said, his tone clipped. When I did that favor for Professor Candido, I found some weird papers. Oh? Justin said disinterestedly. Yeah, blueprints or something, but they were redacted. Do you know anything about that? Can't tell you. Sam was getting frustrated. Okay, what do you know about Starlink? It's a satellite internet program by Elon Musk. Justin avoided eye contact. Well, yeah, but do you know anything else? Nope. Well, then why have you been avoiding me? I haven't been avoiding you. Justin looked at him as if taken aback. I've just been occupied. With what? Stuff. Sam took his last sip of beer and motioned for the bartender, ordered 2 more shots. Justin happily downed his. Tell me about working in IT, Sam coaxed him. Justin shook his head. Sam ordered 2 more shots. They drank them. Justin, please, Sam begged. Please, tell me about it. Look, man, just drop the internship. Justin finally sighed. What do you mean? I mean, forget it. Maybe even transfer school. He hiccuped. Just get out of it, trust me. What are you, crossfaded? Is that why you're acting so weird? Sam asked. Justin just laughed. He got up and stumbled to the bathroom. Sam found the bartender, paid the hefty tab they'd racked up tonight. After about 10 minutes, Sam went to check up on Justin. He was on his knees in one of the stalls, head resting on the seat. Hey, man, are you okay? Sam asked. Justin didn't reply, just groaned and vomited in the bowl. Sam awkwardly stood back, watching. We'll get you back to your dorm. You think you can make it until then? Justin nodded. They made an unsteady trek back to campus. A week after the night out with Justin, Sam received a text from Connor. Hey, Star, come hang out with someone other than just that lightweight. I might come. Are you inviting the lightweight? Sam texted back. I texted Justin, but he said he wasn't feeling up to it. That's okay, we'll have a rager without him. Name the time and place. 3 hours in the basement. All right, see you there. Great, and you can't tell anyone about it. My lips are sealed. Maybe he did need to make some new friends, since Justin scarcely wanted anything to do with him. After all, he hadn't met Connor's friends, mostly other computer science majors, and even a few that had already done the internship. He bought the cheapest 24-pack of beer and walked over to the library. He could hear the music outside the door. Walking into the basement, he saw about 10 people at various stages of inebriation. Connor had a beer in hand, smiled wide when he saw Sam. You made it, he yelled over the music. Yeah, couldn't miss it, Sam said as he set the case on the table. Connor made no attempt to introduce Sam to anyone at the party, and instead tapped away at his phone, the song changing. Sam noticed it was the event speakers thumping with the music. Sam awkwardly tried to talk to some people, but most of them were talking amongst themselves. Sam downed a few beers before resigning himself to scrolling on his phone in the corner. He was brought to full awareness, however, when a short silence arrived between songs. It wasn't silent. He couldn't place it at first, but slowly came to an unmistakable realization. It was the exact same wailing he had heard before. He cast an uneasy look towards the other guests, but to his surprise, nobody else seemed to notice it. Sam's eye caught the key ring on the help desk, unattended. Upon scanning the room, Connor was at a table with the majority of his friends, pouring shots of vodka. The other two people were in conversation in the opposite corner. Sam casually walked over to the desk and grabbed the keys, hiding them in his hand. He slipped around the corner to the hallway where he'd heard the sound before. The music became quieter as he padded down the hall, bringing the eerie sound to the front of his mind. He walked slowly. He carefully pressed his ear to the first door. Silence. He repeated this process with each door following, only pausing to glance behind himself in the hall. It had to have been at least 5 doors before he reached the end, the one labeled server room. The wailing was distinctly behind this door. Sam shakily searched for the red key and put it in the door and turned it. He slowly, still shaking, pulled it open. The wailing immediately amplified. Little LED stars blinked in the artificial night of the server's room. Rubbing his eyes, he cautiously stepped into the dark closet. When his eyes adjusted, he gasped at the sight of a pale man strapped into a chair. There were tubes running from him into the machines that quietly whirred and beeped. He could tell that one was a feeding tube. Another appeared to have blood coursing through it. He stood very still. He didn't know how long, just staring blankly at this man. Connor's whisper broke his state of stunned silence. "Hey, Star. What the hell is going on here? Did you know about this?" Sam asked desperately. He backed himself towards the man, now one step deeper into the closet. "This is our server, courtesy of the Neuralink study. We were going to wait to introduce you until you started your internship." "So you're using his brain?" "Yeah, it's revolutionary. This will change the world. It's cheaper than conventional, requires less non-renewable resources. It's more powerful than if this closet was stacked up to the walls with servers. This is the future of Starlink, the future of tech. This is how we're going to solve overpopulation and climate change simultaneously." "What the hell are you talking about? How can you do this to a human being?" "Sam, there are plenty of invalids, homeless, unwanted children. We're doing the world a favor." "How do you know he was one of those people? Even if he was, who cares?" Sam looked over at the server. "We can just let him go," he pleaded. "Just let him go. I won't tell anyone." Even if that were something I was willing to do, he wouldn't survive. Look at him. He's not all there anymore. He is completely dependent on those machines to live. This is the future, Sam. You're going to become a part of history with us. "I'm not a part of this. I'm not going to join you," Sam said, raising his voice. "You're already a part of this. You may as well have hooked him up to those machines yourself when you approved his survey." Sam's face went pale. Of course. He'd seen his picture when he'd been sorting through the screenings. "I didn't know. I didn't." Sam was starting to hyperventilate. "Come on, Sam. Come back to the party. You don't have to think about it now." Connor reached out his hand and stepped towards him. Sam shuffled backwards. The server gasped, and Sam looked towards it. He stepped on one of his untied laces and fell backwards with a crash. "What did you just do?" Connor yelled. Sam was dazed on the floor, tangled in tubing. His jeans were damp, and he saw crimson pooling near his feet. The machines behind him droned interminably, some kind of warning sounds. The server ceased its groaning. One of the partygoers appeared behind Connor's shoulder. "Did he just kill the server?" he asked. Connor didn't say anything at first. He just walked into the closet and peeled the server from the chair. He took a long needle out of the server's arm and knelt with his knee on Sam's back. "What are you doing?" Sam yelled, kicking his legs. "I told you, Sam. You're going to be our star. Just sooner than I thought." Connor looked over his shoulder at the partygoers. "Go get the ice pick." The end. I wish I could have played ominous music there at the end. That was right out of Twilight Zone. That was wonderful. I got a big kick out of reading that. Thank you, Q. I hope the volume was actually okay, because I couldn't really monitor what was going on as this was going on. Let me come down back here where we don't have enough light. Even with the moonlight, there is not enough light. So we have to kick on the non-moonlight. There we go. Non-moonlight. Wow. That was great fun. All of tonight was great fun. I'm sorry I know we had some problems with the stream early on. I want to let everybody know. Let me turn off the reverb. This weekend, if you're on the Discord server, we're going to be watching some more, I think on Sunday, some more Inside Number 9, which just totally could have just been an episode of Inside Number 9. A lot of these could have been. So, yeah, if you're on the Discord server, come on over Sunday, I think at noon Eastern time. Around then, I think Q has more details, but I think it's noon on Sunday, and that would be August 7th. Is that correct? Why does it feel like it should not be? Why do I feel like I got that day wrong? 8th, of course. Sunday's got to be 7th. Sunday's going to be an 8th. All right. Thank you all for coming out tonight. And thank you to Ms. and Catarina and Nick and Q and me. And, of course, last but not least, Professor Casper, or Dr. Casper Darling. So glad that he had it within his heart to turn the stream back over to its owners, and also my hairline. Thank you from the bottom of my hairline to the top of my hairline, all the way down to the bottom again, which is not very far. All right, I'll talk to you all soon, and have a good night.